Hi there, I'm Lou Blaustein, the founder and CEO of EcoAthletes, and we are thrilled to introduce today our fifth EcoAthletes Hall of Famer, and that is Kyle Clark, the founder of Beta Technologies, which is making electric aviation scalable and hopefully something that makes an impact in drawing down our carbon footprint. Kyle also comes from a sports background, that is ice hockey. And so we're going to get into both. Kyle, first of all, congratulations on being inducted into the EcoAthletes Hall of Fame, our fifth Hall of Famer overall. And we are thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Lou. It's an honor to be considered and even more so to be inducted. So this is phenomenal for me.
So tell me about your background both in hockey and then as an aeronautical engineer at Harvard. And are there any similarities between the two?
So look, I was a three-sport athlete, played football, hockey, lacrosse, and I loved all of them. And I was lucky enough to actually make the U.S. junior development team in hockey, the United States team, when I was in high school. And I had to put football and lacrosse aside, and I got to focus on hockey. And that's really when my athletic career started to accelerate. And I went out to Michigan, left my family when I was at the end of my junior year through senior year of high school, and found a place with a bunch of people who were really hardworking, dedicated athletes on the U.S. Junior development team. Meanwhile, I was kind of a bit of a nerd on the team, but an endearing nerd because I was a fighter on the team, yet very focused on academics. And I just loved studying airplanes and loved studying everything about how they operated, how they flew. And that was a product of when I was younger, kind of visiting airports, helping people fix their airplanes and trying to hitch every ride I could. And going on the U.S. development team, it would be probably wrong to say that that wasn't a big part of the reason I was able to get into Harvard. I probably wasn't smart enough to do it without athletics, which is probably a story of a lot of folks. But once I got there, getting surrounded with exceptionally smart people and a whole bunch of athletes, there's a lot of athletes at Harvard. I just felt like I was in the right place and got a groove on academics and athletics at the same time.
And I know you pursued a pro career for a while after Harvard. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got drafted after my freshman year with the Washington Capitals. And it's funny, I was rated pretty high in the draft coming out of high school on the U.S. team, but there's no fighting in college. So I went way down in the draft. I got drafted in the sixth round, which was still spectacular for me. And had a few different options to go and play minor league pros at that point, hopefully aspiring to get up and get a few shots at the NHL. But about halfway through my junior year, I realized that as the academics got more intense and the hockey got more intense, the right thing to do was to focus on one for a little bit. And I could come back to the academics. So Harvard was great. We kind of pre-configured a return to school. And I went off and played with the Capitals organization. They sent me to Richmond, Virginia. I got called up to Portland, Maine in the AHL. Then I started the next season at training camp. Got sent down to Portland, actually got called up to Washington at the end for the playoffs. And it was a phenomenal, 2 years or two seasons of playing. But what's interesting, I took my signing bonus and I ran right over to the airport to get my pilot's license. So literally the day I got my signing bonus, I went to the airport in Richmond, Virginia and said, I want to get my pilot's license. I've been flying, but I've never had the money to do this. And then I started like designing all these different airplanes while we were on the bus. One thing about athletes, you've got many hours on the bus to read or talk or, with your teammates. And I chose to use that time studying airplanes.
That's incredible. I mean, I got to believe that you are a tiny subset of people who take those buses who are actually designing aircraft. Just a guess.
I think you're right.
So let's pivot from that moment when you're on the bus to getting into electric aircraft and trying to solve the climate crisis at the same time, which is akin to, in hockey terms, in my view, trying to score a shorthanded goal when you're down two men.
Yeah. It is hard. You're right. Aerospace engineering is technologically unforgiving. You have to be high performance, lightweight, low cost, has to work in all weather. And by the way, we want to introduce something that is a sustainable or carbon zero operation. That's a hard task to do all at the same time. It's easier when you're building scooters or cars because the performance and the safety are at different levels. But as you know, all other forms of transportation have gone electric, from scooters to motorcycles to cars to trains to ferries to buses.
And
And now,
scaling.
and scaling, absolutely. Now, what's interesting about that is that aviation is growing faster than all other forms of transportation, and it doesn't have a path to a green future. So it wasn't but maybe 7 years after I stopped playing hockey that I had a couple kids, started really thinking a lot about like our place in this world. And I realized that I do care a lot about our world and thus climate change and thus building things because I'm an engineer and my contribution to helping turn the corner on climate change has to be done in a place that am competent at, right?
An
So,
airport hangar.
yes, an airport hangar, but engineering a product that allows us to not set ourselves in the trajectory of airplanes being the biggest contributor of climate change and transportation by 2035 if we don't do anything about it. Well, somebody's got to do something about it, and it might as well be us. So went out and started pitching these different ideas that were evolving. Not all the ideas kind of came at once. And met this gal, Martine Rothblatt, who leaned in and said, "Yeah, let's go do this together." And with that confidence to making an electric organ transportation airplane, we were able to step outside to replacing military aircraft. And UPS became our largest customer by volume ordered. And then Amazon became a large investor in our business. And crazy this, some dumb hockey player from Vermont all of a sudden is trusted with more than $1 billion to go and turn the climate change corner in aviation. And then we went out and we flew the world's longest, because everybody's range anxiety. It's even worse when you're in an airplane because you can't pull over to the side of the road. We went and flew the world's longest range battery electric flight. It was 386 statute miles on a single battery. And
From where to where?
We actually flew it from one tip of New York, way out west, back to the Plattsburgh airport. And this is up in the northeast corner of New York. And we wanted to do it point to point, not in circles.
And when was this?
This was 2 years ago. And since then, we've been deploying these aircraft down to Air Force air bases. We participated in National Guard exercises. I think I just told you, we just flew by your window up the Hudson Corridor just on Friday.
I'm in Fort Lee, New Jersey, folks, right on the Hudson River. I didn't know Kyle was doing this. I wish I had known.
And so we've deployed a charging network at airports all over the East Coast, down through the center of the United States. And we just built, this is interesting, actually, Lou. We just built the largest net zero building east of the Mississippi to build these airplanes in. So it's all geothermal and solar. So we're building a sustainable airplane in a sustainable building. And then we have a charging network that we can control the energy flow into so we can buy sustainable produced electricity. And we're thinking of this ecosystem of having electric aviation in time, starting with shorter range, going to longer range, displacing the fuel dependency we have in aviation now.
First of all, this is all incredible. What are the sizes of the planes that you have now? And then I'll come back with a related question on the other side.
Yeah, the first plane we started flying was a 4,000-pound four-person plane. The more recent planes are six-person planes, 7,000 pounds. So it's about twice the size of a Cessna, right? And we have designs on the drawing board, and we know we're going to get there to 19 and 30 passenger aircraft. But it's kind of like a step-by-step thing. We, as a nascent industry and a nascent company, need to be thoughtful about our approach. We have opened a facility that's able to produce 300 of these 7,000-pound aircraft per year. That will make an initial dent. Now, it'll only be maybe 5% of the aviation fleet. But as we move up to larger aircraft and longer range, we start to nip on the heels of every technology in front of us, and it forces them to get better, and we displace fuel burning aircraft. And this is not a short thing. I intend to do this for the next 40 years. And in that time, we will get to transcontinental flights.
Well, this now gets into the sports landscape. And this is why we are so excited to have you as in our Hall of Fame, because there are two things. One, and this is being recorded in February, so we're 2 weeks out from the Super Bowl, and the biggest carbon generator for the Super Bowl was private jets. And so this is high profile, as high profile almost as Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Number two, and related, we have at EcoAthletes almost 150 EcoAthletes champions, athletes from all over the world, all different sports. They have all different manner of perspectives on this, but the one thing that seems to unify them and other athletes who are not part of our network is they feel that there's a break on them from talking about climate change because they fly all over the place for their sport, and they will be branded a hypocrite because of their personal carbon footprint that is through the roof because of those flights. Now, let's put on the side, the merits of that argument. This is a concern. And so I'm speaking on their behalf and saying, hey, is this something, what you're doing, that the sports world can become part of in terms of local, regional, and then transcontinental flights or international flights for that matter?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to happen in one day, but absolutely. There are already meaningful things that we can do with the aircraft as they perform today. So within the region of the Northeast, for example, we're flying all over the place, right? There is no reason that whether it be musicians or athletes or business people can't fly in these aircraft for the suitable missions. But the cool thing is that batteries and performance get better at a rate of about 8 to 10% per year. That means every 5 years, you double the performance. And remember, if you want to cover a certain area, it's pi r squared. So you double the radius, you have 4 times the area covered. That means every 6 to 7 years, you've quadrupled the area you can cover for your competitions. So absolutely. I mean, me personally, as a business traveler now, I wish I was still traveling to play hockey.
It's kind of like a Moore's law of
it is
aviation. Moore's law being the similar kind of thing about computing power exponentially growing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Lou. So yes, in the very near future, like 12, 18 months, you will see people moving about in these airplanes. I already do, but I get to fly an experimental version. It has to be certified for other people to fly it
by the FAA.
By the FAA, exactly. And at that point, you can fly an aircraft that will carry 2 people, then 6 people. And then as the developmental cycles go forward, in about 5 years, you get 19 people. Well, there's a good hockey team right there, right?
Right.
And I mean, we used to fly from Portland to Halifax, right? It's actually not a very far flight. It's a heck of a drive, though, right? Because you're going to go up and down and around. You can't do that and play a 3-game series from city to city without flying. So I believe people are going to still want to see their loved ones. They're still going to want to travel for sports. They're still going to want to order things. So we're not going to solve this problem by stopping aviation. We have to innovate our way, just like the way we did with vaccines and the way we've done around many parts of our world that needed human intelligence as a solution versus absolute abstinence.
And EVs are another, electric cars are the ground slower, predictor or analog of what you're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, look, I drive electric cars and I fly electric planes, right? But on the days that I can't fly an electric plane, I don't feel too great about it because I got to get in the plane, push the throttle up, and I can feel the jet fuel leaving the wings and going out the tail. And so we know we can do an awful lot, but if we're operating in a cognitive dissonance of our climate impact by flying too much, we got to do something about it. So that's why we're here. We got 600 people here in Burlington designing, building, and now manufacturing these airplanes. And it feels good. Do I wish it went faster so we could serve these things up this year? Yeah, I do. But we get the Olympics coming up, and we intend to do something there. We intend to do something along the way, and I think that we can meaningfully support people. I love the fact that the first step is these athletes that you're talking about, they're aware of it, and they know that they got to do something about it, and they're smart and logical to say, my carbon footprint is not so much what car I drive, but it's what airplane I fly, because I do a lot of traveling.
And what I can see, and I'm again speaking for the champions, when they get this kind of attack, one of the things they can say to their attackers in a solutions oriented way, hey, I don't want those emissions any which way than more than you do. However, there are solutions coming. How about you and I work together to push the industry to show what Kyle Clark and Beta Technologies are doing is the way to go and get more impetus behind electric aviation? This could be a way to mute that criticism.
I mean, look, Lou, I love that because it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If we show the need, it's part of the business, right? In order to get the development funds to make the sustainable aviation solution through electrification, we need to show a need, a commercial need. Then we get finance, then we get to make the stuff. We get to do that over and over again. And, I think everybody's worried about like what their perception is of climate. I'm worried about the actual emissions, right? And that's what we're trying to solve.
That's the scoreboard right there. That is, exactly. and it's a very, finite game that we're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, just rewinding for 1 second, playing hockey at a very high level, being a team player, being a fighter, being a part of very, very successful and great groups of people as an athlete, teach you a lot about running a business. It also allows you the time, in this case for me, to really be introspective about what I like and what I care about. And when you get to do something you love to do, you do it better, right? All athletes know that. If you do something you really care about it's a doubling effect once again. So here we are getting to design and build airplanes for a mission that makes a lot of sense and I really care about. All the way to the point that like my wife and my daughter and my son, they all work here and they are attached to the mission as well. So it's like this doubling effect that it's given us a lot of momentum. And I really do believe that athletes and other folks are going to be traveling on electric airplanes very shortly, in a very short period of time.
Well, talking to you, I'm not only believe it, I'm convinced of it. And if you're doing anything around the Olympics this year, we right now have 25-ish potential Olympians who are EcoAthletes champions. So we should talk about that offline. Last question, because I know you got to go. What does it mean to be part of the EcoAthletes Hall of Fame, joining the likes of Cory Booker and Dr. Katharine Hayhoe and Alan Hershkowitz and the legendary sports agent Lee Steinberg?
I mean, it's not only an honor, it's very special. It's two things that I care very deeply about. And to be alongside those folks, it's humbling. I probably don't deserve to be here, but I'm honored that you're considering me. And I do think that electrifying aviation and making it sustainable is really important for athletes and everybody else in this world.
And that's exactly why you do deserve to be here. And so we are thrilled to have you as the 2024 inductee into the EcoAthletes Hall of Fame, Kyle Clark. Kyle, thanks for your time, and we look forward to working with you going forward.
Thank you.